and welcome back to another episode of Java with Jesus. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy that you found us. Java with Jesus is a daily Bible study and devotional where we grab a cup of coffee or tea or water or whatever you're feeling and just spend a little time in the Word and spend some time with God. So today is episode 72, and we are in the first few chapters or so of the first book of Kings. And today's reading, we're going to be doing 2 chapters today. The chapters are going to be 9 through 11, so a little shorter than yesterday, but yesterday was full of a lot of detail on the temple that Solomon built for God, so that was kind of cool. If you missed that, definitely go back and watch it. I pulled up a picture of what it looks like, and it's absolutely stunning. Without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. It's Saturday. We've got a lot to do, and I don't want to take up too much of your time before we get on our day. Episode 72, Getting Too Close. Dagwood is always making a sandwich or taking a nap. Blondie is always hoping he will do something more productive, like fixing the sink. We laugh at the comic strip because it mirrors life, and we know that 2 people coming to marriage from 2 different directions can lead to bumps and even collisions. This passage tells of Solomon's greatness and his downfall. His greatness was asking God to be with him and the people and to bless them. Solomon's downfall involves a domestic problem. Marriage doesn't work for him at all. As you read, determined to emulate Solomon's good decisions and to avoid the ones that led to disaster. You will also find cautions about indulging in luxuries and about flirting with false gods. I was kind of wondering about that because Solomon married an Egyptian girl. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Egyptian gods, but they're not our God. 1 Kings 9. God's promise and warning. Now it came about when Solomon had finished building the house of the Lord and the king's house and all that Solomon desired to do, that the Lord appeared to Solomon a second time, as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. The Lord said to him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication, which you have made before me. I have consecrated this house which you have built by putting my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. As for you, if you will walk before me, as your father David walked, in integrity of heart and uprightness, doing according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my ordinances, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom over Israel forever, just as I promised to your father David, saying, you shall not lack a man on the throne of Israel. But if you or your sons indeed turn away from following me, and do not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, and go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel from the land which I have given them, and the house which I have consecrated for my name, and I will cast out of my sight. So Israel will become a proverb and a byword among all peoples. And this house will become a heap of ruins. Everyone who passes by will be astonished and hiss and say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And they will say, because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and adopted other gods and worshipped them and served them. Therefore the Lord has brought all this adversity on them. It came about at the end of 20 years in which Solomon had built the 2 houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. Then King Solomon gave Hiram the 20 cities in the land of Galilee. So Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they did not please him. He said, what are these cities which you have given me, my brother? So they were called the land of Kabul to this day. And Hiram sent to the king 120 talents of gold. Now this is the account of the forced labor which King Solomon levied to build the house of the Lord, his own house, the Millo, the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. For Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and captured Gezer and burned it with fire, and killed the Canaanites who lived in the city, and had given it as a dowry to his daughter, Solomon's wife. So Solomon rebuilt Gezer and the lower Beth Horon, and Balath and Tamar in the wilderness in the land of Judah, and all the storage cities which Solomon had, even the cities for his chariots and the cities for his horsemen, and all that it pleased Solomon to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land under his rule. As for all the people who were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, who were not of the sons of Israel, their descendants who were left after them in the land whom the sons of Israel were unable to destroy utterly, from them Solomon levied forced laborers, even to this day. But Solomon did not make slaves of the sons of Israel, for they were men of war, his servants, his princes, his captains, his chariot commanders, and his horsemen. These were the chief officers who were over Solomon's work, 550 who ruled over the people doing the work. As soon as Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house, which Solomon had built for her, then he built the Millo. Now 3 times a year Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he built to the Lord, burning incense with them on the altar which was before the Lord. So he finished the house. King Solomon also built a fleet of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is near Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent his servants with the fleet, sailors who knew the sea, along with the servants of Solomon. They went to Ophir and took 420 talents of gold from there and brought it to King Solomon. 1 Kings 10, the Queen of Sheba. Now when the Queen of Sheba heard about the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to test him with difficult questions. So she came to Jerusalem with a very large retinue, with camels carrying spices and very much gold and precious stones. When she came to Solomon, she spoke with him about all that was in her heart. Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was hidden from the king which he did not explain to her. When the Queen of Sheba perceived all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the seating of his servants, the attendance of his waiters and their attire, his cupbearers, and his stairway by which he went up to the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. Then she said to the king, "It was a true report which I heard in my own land about your words and your wisdom. Nevertheless, I did not believe the reports, until I came and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. You exceed in wisdom and prosperity the report which I heard. How blessed are your men! How blessed are these servants who stand before you continually and hear your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord your God, who delighted in you to set you on the throne of Israel. Because the Lord loved Israel forever, therefore he made you king to do justice and righteousness." She gave the king 120 talents of gold, and a very great amount of spices and precious stones. Never again did such abundance of spices come in as that which the Queen of Sheba gave King Solomon. Also the ships of Hiram, which brought gold from Ophir, brought in from Ophir a very great number of almug trees and precious stones. The king made of the almug trees supports for the house of the Lord and for the king's house, also lyres and harps for the singers. Such almug trees have not come in again, nor have they been seen to this day. King Solomon gave to the Queen of Sheba all her desire which she requested, besides what he gave her according to his royal bounty. Then she turned and went to her own land together with her servants. Now the weight of gold which came into Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. Besides that from the traders and the wares of the merchants and all the kings of the Arabs and the governors of the country, King Solomon made 200 large shields of beaten gold, using 600 shekels of gold on each large shield. He made 300 shields of beaten gold, using 3 minas of gold on each shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with refined gold. There were 6 steps to the throne, and a round top to the throne and its rear, and arms on each side of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the arms. 12 lions were standing there on the 6 steps on the one side and on the other. Nothing like it was made for any other kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None of it was silver. It was not considered valuable in the days of Solomon. For the king had at sea the ships of Tarshish with the ships of Hiram. Once every 3 years the ships of Tarshish came bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon became greater than all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom. All the earth was seeking the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom which God had put in his heart. They brought every man his gift, articles of silver and gold, garments, weapons, spices, horses, and mules, so much year by year. Now Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, and he stationed them in the chariot cities and with the king in Jerusalem. The king made silver as common as stones in Jerusalem, and he made cedars as plentiful as sycamore trees that are in the lowland. Also, Solomon's import of horses was from Egypt and Kue, and the king's merchants procured them from Kue for a price. A chariot was imported from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150, and by the same means they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and to the kings of the Arameans. 1 Kings 11. Solomon turns from God. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations concerning which the Lord had said to the sons of Israel, "You shall not associate with them, nor shall they associate with you, for they will surely turn your heart away after their gods." Solomon held fast to these in love. He had 700 wives. Good Lord! Princesses and 300 concubines, and his wives turned his heart away. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned his heart away after other gods, and his heart was not wholly devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the detestable idol of the Ammonites. Solomon did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and did not follow the Lord fully, as David his father had done. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable idol of Moab, on the mountain which is east of Jerusalem, and for Molech, the detestable idol of the sons of Ammon. Thus he also did for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and sacrificed to their gods. Now the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he did not observe what the Lord had commanded. I mean, the Lord literally said, "Don't do this thing, because I know you're going to do this thing." And he did the thing. So the Lord said to Solomon, "Because you have done this, and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you, and will give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days for the sake of your father David, but I will tear it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen." Then the Lord raised up an adversary to Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was out of the royal line in Edom. For it came about when David was in Edom, and Joab, the commander of the army, had gone up to bury the slain, and had struck down every male in Edom. For Joab and all Israel stayed there 6 months until he had cut off every male in Edom, that Hadad had fled to Egypt, and he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, while Hadad was a young boy. They arose from Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them from Paran and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh king of Egypt, who gave him a house and assigned him food and gave him land. Now Hadad found great favor before Pharaoh, so that he gave him in marriage the sister of his own wife, the sister of Tahpenes the queen. The sister of Tahpenes bore his son Genubath, whom Tahpenes weaned in Pharaoh's house, and Genubath was in Pharaoh's house among the sons of Pharaoh. But when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the commander of the army was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Send me away, that I may go to my own country." Then Pharaoh said to him, "But what have you lacked with me, that, behold, you are seeking to go to your own country?" And he answered, "Nothing. Nevertheless, you must surely let me go." God also raised up another adversary to him, Rezon the son of Eliada, who had fled from his lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah. He gathered men to himself and became leader of a marauding band after David slew them of Zobah, and they went to Damascus and stayed there and reigned in Damascus. So he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, along with the evil that Hadad did, and he abhorred Israel and reigned over Aram. Then Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite of Zeredah, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow, but also rebelled against the king. Now this was the reason why he rebelled against the king. Solomon built the Millo and closed up the breach of the city of his father David. Now the man Jeroboam was a valiant warrior, and when Solomon saw that the young man was industrious, he appointed him over all the forced labor of the house of Joseph. It came about at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the the Shilonite, found him on the road. Now Ahijah had clothed himself with a new cloak, and both of them were alone in the field. Then Ahijah took hold of the new cloak which was on him, and tore it into 12 pieces. He said to Jeroboam, "Take for yourself 10 pieces, for thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I will tear the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon and give you 10 tribes. But he will have 1 tribe for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel. Because they have forsaken me, and they have worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the god of the sons of Ammon. And they have not walked in my ways, doing what is right in my sight, and observing my statutes and my ordinances, as his father David did. Nevertheless, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler all the days of his life, for the sake of my servant David, whom I chose, who observed my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom from his son's hand and give it to you, even 10 tribes. But to his son I will give 1 tribe, that my servant David may have a lamp always before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen for myself to put my name. I will take you, and you shall reign over whatever you desire, and you shall be king over Israel. Then it will be that if you listen to all that I command you, and walk in my ways, and do what is right in my sight, by observing my statutes and my commandments, as my servant David did, then I will be with you, and build you an enduring house as I built for David, and I will give Israel to you. Thus I will afflict the descendants of David for this, but not always." Solomon sought therefore to put Jeroboam to death, but Jeroboam arose and fled to Egypt, to Shishak, the king of Egypt, and he was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, and whatever he did, and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? Thus the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of his father David, and his son Rehoboam reigned in his place. 700 wives. How do you keep up with something like that, honestly? The man must have been exhausted. Solomon had hundreds of wives. Most of these he married for political reasons, but eventually they exerted significant influence on Solomon and changed him. Unfortunately, most of Solomon's wives worshipped idols, and this put tremendous pressure on Solomon to do the same. Faced with such pressure, at first he resisted it, maintaining his own purity of faith while tolerating his wives' private preferences. Then Solomon tolerated a more widespread practice of idolatry throughout Israel. Finally, he involved himself in the idolatrous worship, rationalizing away the potential dangers to himself and to the kingdom. Solomon could handle great pressures in running the government, but he could not handle the pressure from his wives. In marriage and in close friendships, it is difficult to resist pressure to compromise. Our love leads us to identify with the desires of those we care about. Because of this strong desire to please our loved ones, God tells his people not to marry those who do not share a commitment to him. Build your closest relationships with those who share your faith and values. So important. How many times do we say, we talk about this on my other YouTube channel with my friend, X-Ray Girl. We do a show on Wednesdays that's about dating and relationships. And we always talk about how it's important, extremely important, to talk about politics and religion and all of those things while you're dating before you marry this person, like not just to jump into a marriage or a super serious relationship, because it might be fun now, but at the end of the day later, as evidenced by Solomon later in life, he finally just gave in and was like, yeah, no, we'll worship this God over here. We'll build this idol here. It'll be fine. It's not a big deal. And so then you're compromising whatever values that you have, whatever things that you believe in, for this other person, because you are not on equal playing field. You are not equally yoked, as the saying goes. You have to be equally yoked. Preferably finding somebody that's just as, mad and in love with God as you are, because that's also is not something that you necessarily want either. Like, yeah, sure, you both believe in God, but who's the one reading the Bible? Who's the one going to church? Who's the one that puts him above everything else? That kind of thing. Like, you have to have that balance as well. So, poor Solomon. I tell you, you gotta watch out for those witchy women. But this is why relationships with people of different faiths don't always work out either. I don't know how that works. So like, oh, we'll just raise them with both faiths. I don't know that that's how that works, but I mean, kudos and good luck, I guess. That was episode 72. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. A little bit of a shorter read, a little bit of a sadder read, because we lost Solomon, and Solomon lost himself to 700 different women. That's so many wives. How do you even, I don't know. Do you have like a schedule? How many kids does that man have? Like, it's got to be hundreds of kids. Anyway, before we sign off for the day, let's bow our heads in a brief prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this wonderful day. Thank you for giving us another chance at life by waking up this morning. And thank you for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. God, today I pray that you keep our discernment a little bit better than Solomon's. And we stick with people in our lives that are equally yoked with us and equally in our faith with us and believe and have the same values that we do. And so that we are not tempted away from you, and we are not tempted to worship false idols and false gods, or stop worshiping you in general. Lord, thank you so much for everything that you have done with us and for being with us today. We felt the presence in our reading as well. God, I ask that you keep us wise like Solomon, and that you keep our minds open to other people, but we don't turn our hearts away from you as he did. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you all so much once again for hanging out with me. God bless you all and have a good day.